My parents stole my college fund for my sister's wedding. I refused to raise her abandoned kids. My own family stole my future for a wedding, then begged me for a favor. You won't believe what happened next. I'm 28 now, but this whole thing started when I was about 17, getting ready to finish high school and hopefully go to college. Growing up, I always knew money was something we had to be careful about. But my parents always told me, and my older sister, Chloe, that they would support our education as much as they could. My grandparents, my mom's parents, had actually started a college fund for me when I was born, and they put money into it regularly. And as I got older and started working part time jobs during high school, I put a lot of my own earnings in there too, because I really wanted to go to a good university and study engineering, and I knew it would be expensive. This fund was my big hope, my ticket to a future I really wanted. And I checked the balance sometimes, watching it grow, and I felt proud of it and secure. My sister Chloe is 3 years older than me, and she didn't really have the same academic ambitions, which is fine. She wanted different things from life. She got a job after high school, and then, when she was around 22, she got engaged to her boyfriend, Ben. Everyone was very excited, especially my mom. At first, they talked about a small, simple wedding, something they could afford, and Ben's family was also going to contribute a bit. I was happy for her, really, even though Chloe and I were never super close. She was my sister. But then things started to change with the wedding plans. Chloe started talking about much bigger ideas: a fancier venue, a more expensive dress, a longer guest list, and a big honeymoon. My mom seemed to get swept up in it all, saying that Chloe deserved the best, that it was her special day. I didn't pay too much attention at first because I was in my final year of high school and I was really busy with exams and college applications, and I was just focused on my own future. I heard them talking about money sometimes, and my mom would sound stressed, and my dad would be quiet, which was usual for him when mom got worked up about something. Once or twice, my mom asked me if I could lend them some money, just small amounts, and she said it was for bills or something, and she'd pay me back. But she never did, and I kind of forgot about it because I was so busy. I remember her also making comments like, "Oh, you've got your savings, you're all set," in a way that felt a bit strange, but I just brushed it off, thinking she was just generally anxious about all the wedding expenses. The wedding happened, and it was huge, way bigger than anything I thought they could afford. Chloe looked like a princess, and my mom was beaming, but I remember feeling a little knot in my stomach, seeing how much money was clearly being spent, knowing how stressed my mom had seemed. But again, I told myself it wasn't my business, and maybe Ben's family had paid for most of it, or maybe my parents had taken out a loan. A few months after the wedding, my acceptance letters for college started coming in, and I got into my first choice university for engineering. I was so incredibly happy. I ran around the house showing my parents the letter, and they said they were proud, but there was something a bit off about their reaction, a bit muted. I didn't dwell on it. I was just so excited to start this new chapter. The university needed a deposit to secure my place, and then the first tuition payment would be due soon after that. So I went to the bank where my college fund was, the fund my grandparents started, and I contributed to, feeling all grown up and responsible, ready to take the first big step towards my future. I sat down with the bank teller and asked to make a withdrawal for the deposit. She typed something into her computer, and then she frowned a little, and then she typed some more. She asked me to confirm my identity again, which I did. Then she told me the balance in the account. It was almost empty. There was something like $100 in there, maybe less. I just stared at her. I thought she made a mistake, that she was looking at the wrong account. I told her that couldn't be right, that there was supposed to be tens of thousands of dollars in that account, money I had saved, money my grandparents had put there for my college. She looked uncomfortable and said that the records showed several large withdrawals had been made over the past few months by the other signatories on the account. I asked her who, and she confirmed it: my mother and my father. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I thanked her. I don't know how, and I walked out of the bank feeling like the world had just tilted sideways. I went home and I was shaking. I was so confused and scared, and a horrible feeling was starting to grow in my stomach. I found my parents in the living room watching TV like nothing was wrong. I asked them about the money, about my college fund. At first they tried to avoid the question. My mom said something about how we'd talk about it later, that I shouldn't worry. but I pressed them. I think I was starting to get loud, and I told them what the bank said, that the money was gone and they had taken it. And then they admitted it. They told me they had used my college fund to pay for Chloe's wedding. My mom started crying and said that Chloe had wanted such a special day, and they didn't know how else to pay for it, and the cost just kept going up and up. She said they were planning to pay it back somehow eventually, before I needed it, but they just hadn't managed to. My dad just sat there looking down, not saying much, just that they thought they were doing the right thing for Chloe. I just lost it. I started yelling. I was screaming at them, asking them how they could do that to me, how they could steal my future. I told them that money was for my education, that my grandparents had saved for me, that I had worked for it. I asked them if Chloe's wedding, one day of showing off, was more important than my entire future, my career, everything I'd worked for. My mom kept saying that I was being selfish, that Chloe deserved that wedding, and that family helps family. She said I could always go to a cheaper local college or work for a few years and save up again. She said I was smart. I'd figure it out. Chloe, who happened to come over while this was happening, didn't help. She chimed in, saying I was overreacting, that it was just money, and her wedding was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and that they'd pay me back eventually, so what was the big deal? She even said I was trying to ruin her happiness. The argument was huge. I was yelling. My mom was yelling and crying. Chloe was yelling at me for upsetting mom. And my dad was just sitting there looking miserable, but not defending me, not at all. I told them they had betrayed me, that they didn't care about me, only Chloe. I remember screaming that I hated them, that they had ruined everything. I packed a small bag that night with some clothes and my important documents, and I left. I stayed at a friend's house for a few days, just numb. The immediate aftermath was awful. I couldn't go to my dream university. I couldn't even go to any university that year. The deposit deadline passed. I had no money, no support. My friend's parents were kind, but I couldn't stay there forever. I found a cheap room to rent, and I got a second job, working in a factory at night and in a diner during the day. I was exhausted all the time. I deferred my college plans indefinitely. My parents tried to call me a few times, and Chloe sent a few angry texts saying I was tearing the family apart by being so dramatic and unforgiving. I blocked all their numbers. I didn't want to hear their excuses or their blame. They stole from me. They stole my future, as I had planned it. And they showed me exactly how much I mattered to them. It took me years to get back on my feet. I eventually managed to go to a local community college, taking classes at night while working, and then transferred to a state university, taking out student loans, big ones, and working constantly. It was so much harder than it needed to be. I got my engineering degree, but much later than I planned, and with a mountain of debt that I'm still paying off. I built a life for myself on my own. I have my own small apartment now, a decent job, but it was a long, hard struggle. And I carry a lot of anger and resentment from that time. I haven't spoken to my parents or my sister in about 10 years. I heard through a distant cousin a few years ago that Chloe and Ben had a couple of kids, but I didn't ask for details, so fast forward to last week. I was at home after work, just making dinner, when there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and my heart just dropped. It was my parents. They looked older, tired, and very upset. My mom was crying. I hesitated for a long time, but then I opened the door, just a crack, with the chain still on. My mom started talking immediately, her voice all thick with tears, saying they needed me, that they were desperate. My dad was just standing behind her, looking helpless. She told me that Chloe had left, just packed a bag and left her husband and her 2 kids, who were apparently about 5 and 7 years old. She said Ben, Chloe's husband, was a mess and couldn't cope, and he basically dumped the kids on my parents, saying he couldn't handle them on his own and needed to sort his life out. My parents are older now, in their late 60s, and they said they don't have the energy or the money to raise 2 young children. My mom was sobbing and saying they didn't know what to do. And then she said it. She said, "You have to help us. Your family, and family always comes first. These are your nibblings, your family's blood." She said they were hoping I could take the kids in or at least help them financially significantly to care for them. I just stared at them. All that old anger, that betrayal, it just came rushing back so hard, it felt like I was 17 again, Standing in the bank, all I could think about was my college fund, my stolen dreams, the years I struggled, the debt I'm still in, all because they thought Chloe's fancy wedding was more important. And now, after 10 years of silence, after they completely ruined my trust and my plans for my future, they show up expecting me to sacrifice my life again for Chloe's responsibilities because family always comes first. The hypocrisy was just staggering. I didn't yell this time, I just felt cold. I told them that they had made their choices a long time ago about what family meant, and that they had shown me exactly where I stood in that family. I told them they had spent my future on Chloe, so Chloe and they could figure this out. I told them I had nothing for them. Then I closed the door in their faces, right while my mom was still crying and begging. I heard her wail outside for a bit, and then they left. Since then, I've been a wreck. I feel guilty sometimes when I think about the kids. They're innocent in all this. But then I think about what my family did to me, how they just threw me aside, and the anger comes back. My parents have tried calling me sometimes, getting angry and calling me heartless. I haven't answered. I don't know if I did the right thing. Part of me feels justified, but another part wonders if I'm being cold-hearted for not helping with the children, for turning my back on my family when they are in crisis. Reading all your comments, especially the not the jerk judgments, helped solidify what I already felt. The overwhelming sentiment was that their past actions forfeited any right to demand help from me now, especially using family as a weapon when they showed so little regard for me as family when it suited them. Many of you pointed out that they are trying to make me responsible for Chloe's failures and their own past terrible decisions. My internal reasoning hasn't really changed. I'm still incredibly angry about the college fund. That was a deep betrayal, and it's not something I can just forget, because they're in a tough spot now. A tough spot created by the same daughter they prioritized over me to such a devastating extent. If I help them now, what message does that send? That I'll always be there to clean up their messes, no matter how badly they've treated me? That my money, my life, my resources are just there for the taking when they deem it necessary? I can't do it. The thought of those children pulls at something in me, I won't lie, but it's not enough to make me destroy the life I've painstakingly built for myself, a life I had to build because of their actions. I haven't responded to any of their calls or texts. I'm considering changing my phone number, though I know they know where I live now. I'm also thinking about what legal steps I might need to take if they continue to harass me, as some of you suggested, like sending a cease and desist letter. It feels extreme, but their persistence is starting to feel like harassment. So for now, my decision stands. I am not helping them. It's a hard line, and it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel stressed and angry and sad that it's even come to this. But I don't see another way that doesn't involve me sacrificing myself all over again. I feel like they're trying to drag me back into a dysfunctional dynamic that nearly broke me once. I won't let that happen. Thank you all again for reading and for your input. It's helped me feel less alone in this. Hello again, everyone. This is another update, about a month after my last one. Thank you for the continued messages of support. I had hoped that my decision would be the end of it, that they would just leave me alone. They didn't. After they came to my house, they started leaving voicemails on my phone. I didn't listen to them. I just deleted them. They were always from my mom. Then about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I am expecting calls for work, so I made the mistake of answering it. It was my aunt, my mom's sister, Aunt Carol. She started the conversation by saying she knew I didn't want to talk to my mom, but that she had to call me because the situation was getting desperate. I was about to hang up, but she just started talking, and I froze. She told me that my parents were completely falling apart. She said my dad's heart condition was getting worse from the stress, and that my mom cries all day. She said they can barely manage to get the kids fed and dressed, that the house was a mess, and that they were running out of what little money they had. She went on and on about how Chloe was a mess, that she had gotten mixed up with some bad people, and that the kids were innocent and were asking about their mom and dad. Then she took a breath, and her tone changed. She told me that I was being cold and cruel. She said she knew what happened with the college money was wrong, but that my parents made a terrible mistake under pressure, and that they loved me. She asked me if I could really live with myself, knowing my actions could lead to 2 small children, my family's blood, ending up in the foster care system. She yelled into the phone, asking if I was really going to let that happen, just because I couldn't let go of something that happened ages ago. Something inside me just snapped. All that quiet resolve I thought I had just evaporated. I started yelling right back into the phone. I told her that they didn't just make a mistake. They made a deliberate choice, over and over again for months, to steal my future and give it to my sister for a party. I shouted at her, my voice cracking, that I was practically in the foster system myself at 18, that I was homeless and had to rely on the charity of a friend's family to not end up on the street. I screamed at her, "Where were you then? Where was all this family comes first talk when I was eating ramen noodles every night and working until my hands bled? It seems family only comes first when you need something from me." I told her that it wasn't my actions that would put those kids in foster care. It was Chloe's for abandoning them, and my parents for enabling her her whole life and creating the person she became. I told her that they are the ones letting the kids down, not me. I ended it by telling her to never, ever contact me again. I told her to pass the message on to my parents that if any of them showed up at my house again, I would not hesitate to call the police for harassment. Then I hung up. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that, just trembling. I spent the rest of the day blocking her number, my parents' numbers, and any other number of any relative I could think of. I just felt sick. The fight didn't solve anything. It just made everything feel worse. Hello? It's been about 2 years since my last post. I imagine most people who read my story have long since forgotten about it, but I felt I needed to write this one last time. This is for my own closure, and for anyone who was ever invested in what happened. A lot has happened, and none of it is good. As I promised myself, I maintained absolute no contact. The year after that horrible phone call with my aunt, I got a job offer in a city about 4 hours away. I took it. I sold my small apartment, packed up my things, and moved. I didn't tell anyone in my family where I was going. I got a new phone number. For about a year, I heard nothing. There was peace. I thought that was the end of the story. Then a few months ago, I was in a large grocery store in my new city, and I heard someone call my name. I turned around and saw a cousin from my dad's side of the family, a man named Dave. We were never close, but we were always friendly as kids. He was in town for a conference. He was shocked to see me, and I was shocked to see him. He didn't know the full details of why I left, only that there had been a massive family blow-up. We ended up getting coffee, and he filled me in on everything that had happened in the last 2 years. My parents couldn't cope with the children. Just as my aunt had said, their health completely collapsed under the strain. My dad had a minor heart attack about 6 months after I last had contact with them. My mom just couldn't handle 2 traumatized, energetic young kids on her own. Eventually, a neighbor called Child Protective Services. After an investigation, the children were removed from their care and placed into the foster system. Losing the kids broke what was left of my parents. They ended up having to sell the house I grew up in. They couldn't afford the upkeep anymore. They told me they now live in a small, 1-bedroom subsidized apartment for low-income seniors. He also told me about Chloe. She was found about a year ago. She has very severe addiction problems on top of other mental health issues. She's been in and out of court-ordered rehab and has had some minor legal troubles. She has no home, no job, and no contact with her children. The state terminated her and Chloe's husband's parental rights. The kids, my niece and nephew, are still in the foster care system. The good news, if you can call it that, is that they were kept together. Dave said my parents tried to visit them at first, but the visits were often stopped because they were too emotional, and it was deemed too disruptive and upsetting for the children. They barely see them now. So, that's the end of the story. Everybody lost. My parents destroyed their son's future for their daughter's wedding, and in the end, they lost their daughter, their home, their grandchildren, and their son. My sister got her fairy tale wedding, and it led to a life that is a complete nightmare. Her kids are growing up without parents, as orphans whose parents are still alive. Thank you for reading. This story is a stark reminder that actions have consequences, and trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. If this powerful tale resonated with you, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. What's a time you had to stand up for yourself against family? And for more intense stories of betrayal and tough decisions, check out our Family Feuds playlist.